Birds ate my strawberries. An early heat wave caused all my radishes to flower and bolt. Same with my English thyme. And to top it off, all my peppers are about a month behind. It's not all roses and rainbows when it comes to gardening. And you know what? That's okay. For every lettuce that's wilting under pressure, there's 5 more that are picture perfect. Likewise, for every tomato plant that's failing to thrive, there's a bunch giving more than their fair share. Honestly, if you haven't made mistakes or been disappointed with a result or two, well, you haven't been gardening. The key is to not get too down, and especially don't give up. Gardening truly is one endeavor where you get points just for trying. And that's because we learn far more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. So, to help you along your gardening journey, here's 10 mistakes to avoid this year whenever possible. Without a doubt, we got a big list of stuff to cover here today, so we best get into it right away. And the first one is a bit of a doozy too. Probably the biggest mistake made by new gardeners by far, and that's improper watering. A gardener's relationship with watering their crops is literally the most important one outside of the actual planting itself. Plants are mostly made of water, and they use it to create, store, and transport energy, much like we do. Unfortunately, being such a key component for your crop's health puts an even greater emphasis on the problems that arise from improper watering. Too much, too little, wrong time, and the wrong way. It sounds almost comical, I know, but watering your plants correctly makes such a huge difference. Okay, now that I've made it seem super scary, let's dive into some key watering tips to demystify this important but relatively basic gardening task. First up is the when, and as a rule, plants are best watered in the morning. This gives them the best chance to soak up the water and fortify themselves to fight the heat of the day. As well, you'll get the most use and the least wastage due to evaporation. As for how, well, you always want to be watering the soil, not the leaves. Wet leaves, especially overnight, can be the starting point for fungal and disease outbreaks. Not only that, they're the farthest part of the plant away from the roots. So, water the soil, not the foliage. You also want to water thoroughly rather than frequently. Shallow, daily waterings are only going to create shallow root systems. This is going to leave your plants much more susceptible to drought and much less resistant to the heat of those long summer days. Okay, so how frequent? Well, unfortunately, that's something that no one can answer. As much as we'd like one, there's simply no such thing as a magic universal watering schedule. What works for me in my backyard might not work for someone in, say, Arizona or Las Vegas. Wherever. No two places are going to have the same parameters. I will say this though, overwatering can be just as lethal as underwatering. Plants can definitely drown with too much water, and even if your drainage is on par, your soil will become depleted of nutrition, especially in container setups with too many waterings. Striking that moisture balance is going to be the key to your success in your garden, in your climate. Speaking of those nutrients though, another key gardening mistake to avoid is over-fertilizing. It's easy to think that if X amount of food is good for my plants, then hey, 2 times the amount of that food must be even better. No doubt, our crops need the full spectrum of nutrients to function properly. But the amount that they actually need is often a lot less than we think. A healthy, compost amended soil, which we'll get into later, is naturally its own smorgasbord of nutrition for your plants. Go easy on the supplemental fertilizer, realizing that many crops only get fed twice, sometimes even only once a year, like these strawberries here. And try to stay away from those synthetics whenever possible. One gardening endeavor, however, that's simply not negotiable is mulching. Fortunately, we like it that way because this one is going to help with both the watering and that fertilizing. Bare soils are simply a no-no. Unprotected earth in your garden is going to dry out instantly and become lifeless in no time at all. Unprotected and exposed to the elements, the most vital layer of soil, that top one, loses its ability to support microbial life and thus ceases to function. Without it, the nutrient and moisture cycles are completely disrupted. And now, instead of being self-sufficient, the plants rely on us 100% for water and food. This is the case with big agriculture, and it's not what we want to happen in our backyard gardens. A simple 1 to 2 inch thick mulch layer does so many things for us. It's going to lock in and hold on to valuable moisture, mitigate temperature extremes, as well as prevent erosion. Truly, it's the single biggest thing that you can do for your garden to keep it healthy and active. And not just plots and beds, containers as well. In the immortal words of Kramer, you gotta mulch. Also though, you gotta weed. This one's a big one, and it grows bigger by the day. Weeds are always the most vigorous of plants, and they compete with our crops for space and resources. Left unchecked, these guys get worse by the day. Spend a few minutes consistently staying on top of these invaders, and it'll be a far easier job, while keeping your crops healthy and stronger in the process. Now, just like your plants need space from competing invasive weeds, they also need space from each other, because every crop you grow is going to have a defined spacing requirement. It's not a suggestion, it truly is a requirement, right from the time of planting. Be it direct seeding like these peas here, or from starters like this kale. Give your plants the proper spacing right from the start, and it won't be an issue. Another key mistake, usually reserved for new growers who are just getting their hands dirty, is bad timing. In warm places like Florida and the southern United States, you can be afforded the luxury of just planting whenever you want to. But in areas with defined seasons, and more importantly, a true winter like where I live, the windows to plant are quite small and quite regimented. Quick crops like radishes and spinach are okay because they only take a month to grow to harvest anyways. But heavy hitters like these tomatoes here have a set timeline for me, and if I deviate from that even just a little bit, getting a harvest from them is next to impossible. This one can be a bit of a technical one, and each crop is going to have its own timeline based on where you live. So, a bit of research is going to have to be done, but it's well worth it. Watch your planting dates, they are important. Switching it up, we've got some bad guys of the insect kind. Now, the presence of these guys isn't entirely our fault. The mistake lies in how we deal with them. I'm talking chemical warfare. No question there's going to be some debate, but my stance on this is quite firm, in that chemicals in the garden, especially ones where you're going to be growing food, is a no-no. Pest outbreaks in your garden are almost always caused by an imbalance, either stressed or weak plants. Fixing the environmental parameters that is causing the problem in the first place is always a better solution than bombing your garden with chemicals. Sorry, but that's just my opinion. Okay, another mistake that even veteran growers make is to not properly support your plants. Now, not all plants need support, mind you. It's not like we're going to be staking our garlic. or putting in supports for carrots. But you better believe there are plants that do need our help with support. It's important to get these guys growing vertical and getting those lower leaves off the ground. Getting them up and away from that soil, even the mulch, is going to prevent fungus and disease from being transmitted to those leaves. Keep them vertical with lots of space for airflow underneath, and they'll be infinitely happier. One big one that's more of a missed opportunity rather than a mistake is to not compost. Completing the entire growing cycle, composting does so much more for our gardens beyond the reduction of waste. It truly is staggering. Periodically amended back into our beds, compost is going to promote the healthiest of plant growth. It's going to add valuable, slow-release nutrients, introduce and fortify beneficial bacteria and microbes, improve soil structure, improve aeration, and even improve moisture retention. In short, compost does it all, and I can't stress enough how much better your garden is going to perform with even just a modest amount of amending with it. And finally, after all that, we're right back to where we started, and at our 10th and final mistake to not make in the garden this year, and that's to not get discouraged or ever give up. Gardening is a process, a lifelong journey with many ups and some downs. It's unavoidable, but as you work at this craft, the mistakes lessen, and those rewards grow. You'll soon start to see the positives in even the setbacks. Yes, birds ate my strawberries, but that means they finally left my raspberries alone. Yes, my radishes did go and bolt, but now I can finally go and collect my own radish seeds. Same with my English thyme, whose flowers smell amazing anyways. And even with those peppers that are a bit behind, I'm not going to complain one bit about their epic harvest in September rather than August. The point is to keep at it and don't let the mistakes get you down. Like we said, we're going to learn more from those mistakes than we are from our successes. Don't get discouraged, and if you can, try not to make the same mistakes twice. Hey, best of luck, guys. Happy growing, and I'll see you soon. Hey, thanks so much for watching, guys. I appreciate the support more than you know. And if you're getting value from these videos, please like and share them to spread the word and help your fellow gardener to grow better.